Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. Hope you had a wonderful meditation. Um, it seems like there are a lot of newish comers. So I just wanted to do a little more like, this is who we are. Welcome. Thanks for meditating with us. Spiel. So, because there will be some names that may or may not be familiar to those of you who are new, I wanted to mention that too. Tao's Meditation Center's core gathering, like this one meditation, is inspired by Plum Village tradition. You're going to hear that word a couple times. And Thich Nhat Hanh is the founder of Plum Village tradition. You'll see his pictures on the altar around the center and in this slide too. And I know the screen is so small. Don't worry about the screen. If you can't read it, know that I'll be reading almost everything on the screen. So you can just listen to me and look at me too. And the center is really beautiful space of interfaithness and secular friendliness, meaning we don't assume what you believe or don't believe, thanks to Brother Chising and all the founding members' contribution to make this space just somewhere you can make your practice truly yours. And again, thanks, Michael, for introducing me. I'm currently lucky to be serving the center as the center director. And just the relevant information, like I'm trained in mindfulness of various kinds, including secular one, which I might mention later down the line. So whenever I give a talk, I'd like to clarify my intention. My intention for my talks is maybe less about educational, but it's more about creating a space to connect to ourselves and to one another. Sometimes meditation, some people think of it as like I connect to myself, it's a solitary practice. But to me, that connection to ourselves and one another is what true mindfulness is about. So my hope for you, before heading out at the end of tonight, is that you feel connected. You don't feel grounded, safer, centered. Because, in connection, we truly feel like we feel safe and we feel present. So that's my intention. The title is Joyful Eating as a Spiritual Practice. What inspired this talk? Who could guess? Is Friendsgiving dinner tonight. Even if you didn't plan on staying, I kind of want to peer pressure you to stay. It's gonna be a good time. Who doesn't want free food? Come on. Yeah, the food is already almost set out there. So that's what inspired me to write this talk. I like to go one word by one word as a like writer nerd, like really like deep diving into each word. So joyful. What do I mean by joyful? And why is joy relevant right now? Pop quiz. What is the one-liner motto of Tao's Meditation Center? Board members and staff are not allowed to answer. What does the decal on the Dallas Meditation Center door say when you walked in? What did it say right there? Can anybody draw it? Experience the joy of mindfulness. True, you're too good. Experience the joy of mindful living. Experience the joy of mindful living. So you got it right, you get a tangerine, but then everybody else did too. So the reason I want to highlight the joy aspect is that mindfulness tradition, there's so many of them, but here we emphasize joy because that's what's important. But then still, what do we mean by joy? So here's a Christmas elf with a blue box. You're gonna hear the word joy a lot next by the end of December. And that's fun, that's wonderful. But in my humble opinion, the joy we mean in connection to mindfulness, a little different tonality, flavor, I think. And I wanted to explore that joy with you with the following looking deeply practice with the tangerines. Does everybody have a tangerine? And because I have to, I'll deep dive into expression looking deeply again. So in my understanding, looking deeply is the translation of Thich Nhat Hanh of the word vipassana. But vipassana as a word is being used in many different contexts. So let me clarify how we're defining it here and now. In this moment, looking deeply means the practice to explore what conditions have been present for the current phenomenon is possible before us, here and now. I'll offer a quick quote that conveys the meaning of looking deeply practice before we do tangerine practice. So in the heart of Buddha's teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh writes, when we look deeply into the heart of a flower, we see clouds, sunshine, minerals, time, the earth, everything else in the cosmos in it. Without clouds, there could be no rain. And without rain, there will be no flower. So in this case, the current phenomenon is a flower. When we look at the flower, it's like, oh, it's nice. But when you engage your looking deeply practice, we realize all the conditions that had to have met for this flower to exist. That is, the rain that comes from cloud, the sunshine that helps the plants to grow, minerals in the soil. There's so many things that have to happen for a simple, beautiful flower to have happened. And that's what I mean by what this practice allows you to feel, huh? And realizing that nothing exists separately. Without clouds, there could be no rain. Without rain, there could be no flower. In Plum Village tradition, we call it interbeing, or the nature of interconnectedness. So going back to joy, in this acknowledgement of interconnectedness, there arises a sense of awe, perhaps, a sense of miraculousness. So this is my paraphrasing of eloquent wording of Thich Nhat Hanh's. For this moment, where we are all sitting together, holding a tangerine, to have arisen, so many conditions had to have been met. And like, whoa. That's my joy. And that's the sense of awe is what I'm inviting to explore in this tangerine meditation. If you have been looking at the screen now, guide your attention to your tangerine. Intentionally didn't write the script on the screen, so you can just be with the tangerine and feel the tangerine. And I'll be offering some excerpts from Tangerine Meditation from Plum Village. Thich Nhat Hanh guides the meditation. When I pick up a tangerine with mindfulness, I come in touch with a miracle. Please give it a try. Yes, the tangerine you're holding is nothing less than a miracle. If you are truly here and now, and if you look deeply, this tangerine is a miracle. You can perhaps see the tree, the white flower, the rain, the sunshine. The white flower blossom is still in there if you gaze deeply. And perhaps you begin to see a very tiny green tangerine. And because the sunshine, the rain, that tiny green tangerine continues to grow, grow and grow. And now it has acquired this beautiful shape that you're holding here and now. The whole cosmos has come together in order to produce this wonderful miracle, which is a tangerine. And only with mindfulness, we can recognize the miracle of the tangerine. And since we're holding tangerine, perhaps if you'd like, mindfully start peeling the tangerine. Feeling each and every moment. Perhaps becoming aware of how the peeling produces the smell, sensations in the fingers. And we're loving towards ourselves. If you feel impatient, you want to get that open. We're aware of that too, with spaciousness, lovingness. And you will slowly, at your own pace, you got one little slice, tear it up, and hold it in your hand, breathing deeply in and out. What is present to you? Temperature of the tangerine, color, fruit. You successfully separated one slice. Invitation to touch your lips with the slice of tangerine. Here, mindfulness often invites people to see how your mouth may water gradually, how you might feel the sensation of the tangerine touching the mouth. Thank you. When you feel ready, put your tangerine in the mouth and chew. Feel how the shape, texture of tangerine changes as you slowly chew. If the urge to swallow kicks in, notice that too. When you're ready, when you swallow, perhaps notice how the tangerine goes down your throat, how your body might be one tangerine slice weight-wise here. I'll hold space for 3 deep breaths of silence. Of course, feel free to continue being tangerine. We're kind of easygoing here. I'm not gonna make you full tangerines and not eat it for the rest of the time. Um, I'm returning to the title, Joyful Eating as a Spiritual Practice. Why is this spiritual? What do I mean by spiritual? Perhaps we feel common, perhaps we are enjoying the flavor, but what do I mean by spiritual practice? Tao's Meditation Center, as I said, is an interfaith and secular friendly space. So I like to invite in inclusive definition of spiritual practice. Spiritual practice, some people might think just prayer or bowing or specific ritual might be spiritual practice. But in this inclusive definition of spiritual practice is something that helps us to connect something larger than our individual self as we imagine it. If you really gaze into Tangerine and start seeing the flower, the sun, the sky, just kind of this big picture of cosmos and how we are part of that picture becomes available. And there's sacredness in there. And that's what I mean by spiritual practice. And Tangerine meditation allows us to connect to this connection beyond time and space. But what larger than self are we also connecting with this eating practice? Here I would introduce verses for eating mindfully. This is actually on the refrigerator during the potluck. If you want to check it out, you can like look at the like little flyer. And one of the contemplations that's involved with eating food, this might be a little surprising term for some of you. Contemplating on your food section includes this food, fragrant and appetizing, can also contain suffering. So we've connected to this cosmos of a beautiful space, this like interbeing. So what do you mean by suffering? What am I bringing up? And what is this passage referring to? If we have the emotional capacity, if we are willing to go there with our practice, again, it's always your choice. Here we give in your agency. In English tradition, we also acknowledge that there's a lot of hardship that goes in, agricultural industry, how farmers and migrant workers put their effort into almost making all our foods healthy. So you can just connect to something larger than yourself. It can be something beyond time, beyond space, but also people that you may never meet through this tangerine. And we'll be connecting with so many different people who made this food possible on the potluck table. And also, to even get less abstract, who eat each other's food, who all grocery shopped in different ways, cooked different ways, and brought it here. In that we are connecting to something larger than ourselves, and that alone is spiritual experience in this inclusive definition. So here, I like to return to my invitation of make this your practice. Make this your practice. And what I mean by that, I'll convey it by using myself as an example. I used to meditate with Korean Zen Center. And there was a nun, Korean nun, who had me read a sutra called Blood Bowl Sutra. Does anyone know about Blood Bowl Sutra? It's the intense one. It sounds okay. Maybe I'm being irreverent. It sounds really metal. It's about acknowledging all the different bodily fluids, bodily parts, and there's impurity in body. And I remember telling the nun, like, it feels bad to be reading this. I want to honor my body. I don't want to think about how my body's pure or their bodily fluids of whatever many kinds. Like, what? I remember asking her that. And even in strict Korean Zen tradition, she was like, make this your practice. This sutra is for people who are really attached to their body and youth, so that they can kind of detach the kind of like, I want my body to be beautiful Well, your body has so many different fluids. So there's a reason the sutra exists. But even in this strict Korean Zen tradition, she was saying that if it produces suffering in you, maybe that's not your practice. Skip the sutra. We don't have to read that. Maybe down the line, you want to read it. I don't know. And I took that teaching to my heart in that here, the question I will pose to you so that you can feel in charge of your practice is, okay, we talked about eating to connect to ourselves, but also connect to something larger than ourselves. But what kinds of connection do I want to foster? What choice do you want to make? Which connection do we want to send our attention to? Because where our attention goes, there's where our mind goes, there's where our contemplation is. So if your intention is to be aware of suffering of people who are in agricultural industry, perhaps that is what you meditate on within tangerines. But that practice would not have been good for me during the time I was really depressed. So in that case, you can use the tangerine meditation as a joyful experience of this bright color, the sun, the I don't know, I'm just like smelling it, like the smell. So know that you can make this eating practice as a practice for yourself, however you see fit. And there's no should, there's no wrong way of doing it. So that's what I got in at Tao's Meditation Center, because we believe that we learn from one another. We learn from community. We have a little small group and we have a small conversation, if you will. But again, even this is optional, meaning some people might enjoy being in the more kind of contemplative, silent space. So know that this invitation is optional. So the invitation is to look around, make eye contact with people if you want to participate in small group conversation. Form a group of 3 or 5. That tends to be good size for kind of an intimate conversation. And a few questions that I'm posing for you to discuss perhaps, but it doesn't have to be limited there, is what came up for you when you were listening to the talk? How was your tangerine meditation? Another one is, what kind of contemplative practice, spiritual practice, connection am I trying to cultivate? What would be good for my soul? What could be good for my mindful way of living? So those are some example questions that you can ask yourself and each other and share. But know that whatever comes up, and that's the way this usually rolls. Again, if you don't want to participate in small group conversation, feel free to make yourself tea. Feel free to just kind of avoid eye contact. People get it. And now inviting all of us to find a small group, and you'll hear the bell when it's time to return to the big group. So thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful conversation.
Oh yeah, I've been. Oh my God, it's really great. I do that. Oh, I've been doing it with the
Sounds like a good idea. Hello. I like it. Vegetarian.
So I'm reading.
It's hard for me to stay that mindful the whole time without like, so good.
Right.
It's like, I'm not.
During the war, about like combat as well as self-immolation. I'm not sure that's another way to connect this,
I don't know. It is. What came up for you guys? I feel so connected to this thing.
I don't know what.
So.
Actually, I'm not working out. That's.
Yeah.
You know, you think of. Oh, this, and also what.
Your body's
Also, maybe it's key in my brain. And I got
The
this
trick
trick
story,
now,
I don't know what it is, what
just like a gratitude practice, whenever you listen to try to express gratitude for every single step of the way, like you even if somebody.
I don't know, I feel like one way of like thinking people have had. Fucking facts.
Is also in that range, so
I kind of
the work that we take experts on from the tantra.
they try to like keep that in mind, like they try to keep in mind like how you can.
Her love is really important to every
Yeah,
other worker.
I can't decide that one.
You know, a person who was on the shelf at the grocery store, their partner made them lunch.
So it's not just for like purification.
I think
it's also to like connect with.
Interconnected.
And I think something that's come up lately for doing stuff with people. I think, me whenever I would.
Oh, yes.
Myself, enjoying the well, even like I was looking at it, like the shiny, you could tell. Right there. But then I actually kind of
Actually quite big.
like
So.
I noticed.
Not really much.
But that's kind of very weird, so it's really hard to do. It's hard to do every single day. That's my hard thing. It's like really natural urge to every day. Because from the same time, I think there's something.
I used to struggle with all of like, or trying to like, it was either escapism or like trying to exercise weight over my life. Like,
It's hard.
both of those things.
It's like,
I've done a lot of.
Yeah,
so it's
I still feel like, you know, the exercise.
So,
Like,
like, while I was and look at it differently now, because I think I've definitely. Yeah, I've never peeled it, so, but it was like. I always thought my dog, it's just more long peeled, but, like just the feeling of you pull it off, or the
the smell that pops up from it. I never really think about it. I'm kind of working as I'm doing it. So I'm thinking about that.
I enjoy it more.
I never thought about it. Which is really interesting to me because during COVID, I started gardening. So I never like grow from seed all the way, and it really is because I think when I first grew garden, first
And every meal,
plants in my garden, it just kind of sprouts. You don't realize you battle with like all these insects and like the sun, like it's too hot. So it really is about choice. I didn't grow very.
and
First
for
time I
me,
tried to garden.
I don't know. I feel like I was looking around. I was really enjoying the food. I never thought it was like Chinese and it was like Hong Kong food. So I really liked the food. But I don't know. I was looking around and thinking, like, kind of eyes were closed and like I was like bouncing around. You know what the food can eat. So I thought that was. I guess I don't know. It doesn't have to be so. I think like that for me that's like really just talk about my mom was having something.
Did they also do my so yeah, you get to
China and
start this.
I don't really like how she approaches food. It's kind of like eat as much as you can. But I felt like, I think it makes